Hello, everyone, and it's great to have you with us. My name is Bill Callery, and I'll be moderating the webinar today. I'm Manager of Programs and Knowledge Exchange at the Chronic Disease Prevention Alliance of Canada, or CDPAC. And for anyone who's not familiar with CDPAC, just a little bit about us. We've been around for about 15 years, and we're a network of many of Canada's largest national health charities and professional organizations. So that includes Heart and Stroke Foundation, the Canadian Cancer Society, the Medical and Nurses Association, and others. And these charities have come together to advocate for and share knowledge about research, surveillance, policies, and programs to promote healthy living and prevent chronic diseases in Canada. So if you're interested to learn more, our website and social media contacts are at the bottom. And you can also find out about upcoming events and find materials from past events on our website. Today's webinar, it's part of a series being co-hosted by CDPAC and the Public Health Agency of Canada's Centre for Chronic Disease Prevention, and is entitled Dementia Friends Canada, Using Digital Means to Build an Online Community of Engaged Canadians. It's great to be continuing our ongoing webinar series with the Public Health Agency of Canada with this webinar, which is going to be profiling the innovative Dementia Friends Canada program and how it uses an integrated approach that combines traditional social media like Twitter and Facebook with various other channels such as influential blogs to help improve awareness and understanding about dementia. So on behalf of CDPAC and our co-host, the Public Health Agency of Canada, I'm pleased to welcome you to the webinar, and thanks for joining us today. Well, I'm really pleased at this point to introduce our presenters. Three presenters today. The first is Lindsay Brown, who's a Senior Policy Analyst with the Public Health Agency of Canada. And Lindsay's been working with PHAC for about 7 years. She has a background in private sector and public relations, and media manager in the high-tech industry. She joined the public service during the H1N1 pandemic and spent time working on internal communications before moving into the role of communications executive for the Centre for Healthy Living and Chronic Disease Prevention. Lindsay's worked on files such as Play Exchange, if anyone recalls that initiative that was, I think, last year, and Canada's Active Living Challenge. And Lindsay found her passion in working with clients in program management and policy development, and then made the transition into the role of senior policy analyst just under 2 years ago. Lindsay is now managing the Dementia Friends Canada public engagement campaign, which allows her to make use of her strong background in communications while applying a public health policy lens. Our second presenter is Heather McKelvey. She's Director of Client Service with Manifest Communications. Heather brings 10 years of experience in advertising and marketing to the table as Director of Client Service with Manifest, and she's got a wide range of marketing and communications experience and has led the development and execution of print, television, direct advertising, as well as digital and social media initiatives for clients including the Public Health Agency, Statistics Canada, Public Safety Canada, Alberta Health Services, Daily Bread Food Bank, Covenant House, Dietitians of Canada, and more. So lots of experience. And Stephanie Giles as well from Manifest Communications. She's the digital strategist at Manifest and is responsible for social media and digital ideation, strategy, and implementation. Using her expertise, she distills trends, insights, best practices, and analytics into an innovative and creative digital strategies, ensuring that we're moving from big ideas to user engagement and compelling content. Her recent clients include St. Joseph's Health Centre, Veterans Affairs, Statistics Canada, Dietitians of Canada, the Ministry of Child and Youth Services, Kids Help Phone, and Public Safety Canada. So it's a pleasure to have our presenters on the line today. And at this point, I will turn it over to our first presenter, Lindsay.
Thanks, Bill, for that introduction. And I have to do a special thanks to my 7-year-old for taking that photo of me on the way to school. A huge welcome and thank you to everyone who has logged in for our presentation today. The Dementia Friends Canada program turned 1 this summer, and we've learned a lot over the last year that we're looking forward to sharing with everyone. Before we get started, we were hoping to ask you a few more questions and would like for you to click your answers on the screen. The first question, do you have some personal connection with dementia? How familiar are you with dementia? And by familiar, we mean you know something about it other than just the name. Are you confident that you could recognize the symptoms of early dementia? Do you feel confident interacting with someone living with dementia day to day?
Okay, so I'm going to close up the poll now. Okay, so there's the results.
Okay, so it's good. We have a broad range here. That's fantastic. So we're actually going to get back to those answers a little bit later in the webinar, but for now, I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about how Dementia Friends came to Canada. So the Public Health Agency estimates that there are currently 395,000 Canadians aged 40 years and older currently living with dementia, and this number is expected to increase to 674,000 by 2031. These are startling statistics, and there's a few more on the screen in front of you, and I could certainly go on and give you more numbers to illustrate the economic costs, but the reality is that these stats don't begin to address something that is far more difficult to measure, the human costs of dementia. We know that the effects of dementia are wide-reaching, and they're impacting those diagnosed, as well as their families, their friends, their colleagues, and their communities. Just last week, we heard from a Member of Parliament, Lisa Raitt, whose husband was recently diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's, about the need to talk about Alzheimer's, to share our knowledge, and most importantly, to get past the stigma. This is where Dementia Friends comes in. Canada is part of the global commitment to find effective treatments and ultimately a cure for dementia, and there are a number of federal initiatives underway. I've listed them on the screen, but today we're going to talk about Dementia Friends. This program has roots in Japan in a program called Dementia Supporters. However, it officially began in the United Kingdom in 2013. By bringing this program to Canada, we believe that we're complementing the significant investments being made in research. This program is allowing our government to augment the work being done to prepare for the future by supporting those that are living with dementia today. Working with the Alzheimer's Society of Canada, we brought this program to our country in 2015 with an official launch in June of last year. We're now one of 8 countries running Dementia Friends programs around the world. Operating with a budget that is significantly smaller than what's been allocated to the program in the United Kingdom, and with a geographic expanse that was significantly greater, we determined at the onset that this program should be digitally focused. We created a website that revolved around a video that illustrated some of the signs of dementia, along with tips for how individuals could support someone that they might encounter experiencing those signs. I'll turn it over to Bill to show you that video now.
What is dementia? It's a disease of the brain. It's repeatedly asking the same question, or repeating the same word or phrase, or repeating the same word or phrase, or repeating. Sometimes it's not being dressed for the weather. Sometimes it's pacing, or trying to find a word. Sometimes it's not knowing where you are. Or creating new words even. Swearing in goddamn conversations. Or remaining silent. But you can help people with dementia live better by recognizing the signs and knowing how to interact. Speak slowly and calmly. Maintain eye contact. Ask yes or no questions, and don't be confrontational. And above all, be patient.
Who doesn't recognize the actor, that's Eric Peterson from a few different TV shows, but I think most notably for many would be Corner Gas. And we developed a French version of that video as well with a different actor. In addition to the website, we created a Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn account and began reaching out to potential celebrity influencers as we had seen done in the United Kingdom. So I'm going to ask Bill to turn on our second video here.
Hello Canada, I'm Victor Garber, and I've signed up to be a dementia friend. I'm asking you to please join me. Go to dementiafriends.ca. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thanks again, Bill. So as we approached the 6-month mark for the program, we were receiving a positive response from the audience we were engaging. However, the overall reach of the program was low, and we were struggling with maintaining engagement with the individuals who had registered as Dementia Friends. It was at this time that working with the Alzheimer's Society, we engaged Manifest Communications to determine areas where we could refresh the program and ultimately build greater momentum. I'm going to turn it over now to Stephanie and Heather from Manifest to take you through what they've done with the program.
Thanks, Lindsay. So we're going to start off with going back to those questions that Lindsay asked just a little bit earlier. Research tells us that there is work to be done to engage Canadians around the issue of dementia. And we conducted a study with our research partner really to get a baseline measure of Canadians' levels of awareness and their attitudes around dementia. And we conducted the study with 3 separate groups. So we did one with the general population, one with members of the Alzheimer's Society of Canada, and finally one with people who were members of Dementia Friends Canada. And so while the study really serves as a baseline to evaluate the growth in awareness and understanding for the Dementia Friends campaign, it also provides some interesting insights which we'll share with you. You know, overall, there's really a high awareness of dementia or Alzheimer's disease, but the real familiarity with it and better understanding is significantly lower among the general population than those people who are members of the AFC or Dementia Friends. And there's also a lot of misperceptions that exist around the early signs and symptoms of dementia or Alzheimer's disease by the general population. I think most people think of it as memory loss, but there's a lot of other signs and symptoms that people aren't aware of to be looking for and to be thinking about. There's also stigma attached to dementia, so people living with dementia and caregivers perceive there to be a high level of stigma around dementia. And part of that is this low familiarity with dementia. And confidence really varies by connection, so confidence in providing support is generally low amongst the general population for providing support to somebody with early stage dementia. But we've learned that, you know, one of the things that we can do to help is really promoting coping strategies as well as providing some education to help drive more confidence amongst all 3 groups. And while there is low familiarity and understanding, there is a general optimism for condition management. And that's particularly true for those who have become dementia friends. They have higher confidence and knowledge and really ability to cope. So I think this brings us to our final sort of research point, which was that, you know, many people are feeling that there's not enough support for those living with early stage dementia or Alzheimer's disease as well as their caregivers, and people are looking for more support groups and organizations for support. So and it says at present, you know, the general population has a high reliance on the internet for support services and for information. So really, research supports this idea that more work needs to be done to increase Canadians' awareness and understanding of dementia, as well as our attitudes and perceptions of those living with dementia. And that's really where Dementia Friends Canada comes in. So we want to really encourage and engage all Canadians to learn about dementia so that they can help people with dementia live well. And as Lindsay mentioned, Manifest came on board in year 2 to refresh the program, and this gave us the opportunity to look back at year 1 to really see what was working well and which of our assets that we already had and had invested in could work harder to drive stronger engagement. So, you know, knowing that the internet is the #1 source of information for people researching personal issues and health challenges, and given the campaign budget, it really did make sense for us to focus our efforts on the digital environment. And this would also allow us to leverage some of the work done in year 1 when some of our online community had already been built. And as we moved into year 2, really with the digital focus, our campaign continues to be threefold. So we want to increase awareness and really get more Canadians thinking about dementia, improve attitudes. We want to help Canadians feel that they have the confidence to support their aging family and friends. And we really want to initiate action, and that's motivating more Canadians to become dementia friends. So with that bit of background, now what we're going to do is take you through our digital approach to the campaign.
Right, so jumping in here, Stephanie, what we've done is go ahead and thought about some of the core imperatives or necessities for a successful digital campaign. And what we'll do, we'll take you through each one and relate them back to examples of what we did throughout the Dementia Friends campaign and kind of walk you through our thinking behind that. The first one here is going to be prioritizing your bullseye target to maximize relevance and engagement. And then we have, focusing your message. Then we have being single-minded with your call to action. Then we move on to create a storefront for deeper learning, align tactics to target online behavior, establish benchmarks and optimize throughout, amplify your reach with relevant partners, and evaluate and monitor behavior change. The first one is prioritizing your audience, which I'll hand back over to Heather.
Great, thank you. So clearly our overall goal is to reach all Canadians and engage them in our Dementia Friends campaign, but we really needed to identify a primary marketing target to focus our campaign message. So we know that a personal connection to an issue is the #1 reason why Canadians engage in a social issue. So we identified women who are curiously attentive to their aging loved ones and really the key holders of their family's health as our target, as our marketing target. So the kind of profile of the people that we're looking at are women aged 30 to 50. They work, they're married, 70% have a post-secondary education, and their role in the family is really the health advocate. So, they're the family caregiver. And they're also more likely to be a dementia caregiver. So 70% of caregivers are women. And in terms of their current knowledge, what they know is they have some sense of dementia, but not much. They're a little bit more informed. People are going online and searching more, but their knowledge is largely focused on symptoms. And they're not quite sure how to distinguish between dementia signs and symptoms and natural aspects of aging. So, if somebody's either, forgetting their keys or misplacing things, or, doing some of these other sort of day-to-day activities, they weren't quite sure what the signs and symptoms that they should be looking for are. And while we're really, our, primary target is these women, we also have a number of other audience that will help us in terms of reaching our campaign goals. And that's really when we open it up to, all Canadians, but as well corporations, celebrities and influencers, communities, health associations. Really what our goal is to make people aware so that they can take this early personal learning out in the world for a broader societal application and destigmatization. The other important thing to do when engaging in digital campaigns is to really focus your message and make sure that it's clear and succinct. So in any marketing and communications pieces, you're trying to be as clear as possible, but digital makes it even more important as you're limited in terms of space and character counts, which means it's really critical to focus on your key role. And in this case, the role of Dementia Friends Canada is really we're really trying to be an early entree into issue awareness. Dementia Friends is a conduit to other sources for for deeper learning, and particularly to the Alzheimer's Society of Canada, who has very comprehensive and detailed information. So every time that we're going out in the world, we need to remember that our most important role is just to share a little bit of learning with our target. We want them to take some time to learn a little bit about dementia, and then they can go elsewhere to dig deeper and learn more. And we've identified a little learning as, helping to share information so people can be proactive, and that's learning and understanding the early signs. Having them be prepared, so learn some simple steps that they can take to help, and also being patient and really learning to be empathetic with those around them. Next, we're being single-minded with our call to action. So basically, we want to make it as easy as possible for people to participate. So a simple call to action for Canadians is essential. We've done our best to make becoming a friend a one-click process, which is really what you would like to do in any digital campaign, is to reduce those barriers to participation and make it easy for people to engage. So people can either register on our website, like us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter. And, really any way that people engage, whether it's through the website or through social, really offers us the opportunity to continue to share information with them. So that's a win for us. And while we're doing, we mentioned being very focused on our role and our message, we do also want to help people and ensure there's somewhere where they can go for deeper learning.
Okay, this brings us to a bit of a discussion about our website. The website was made at the beginning of the campaign, and it really was the hub of the campaign. It housed the video as well as several modules that included opportunities for learning about dementia, including Dementia 101, signs and symptoms, tips and information. And then later on in the campaign, we decided to simplify the website to create a bit more of an easier user experience. We do have a lot of assets in market, a lot of properties. As Heather mentioned, we are on social media. We have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. But, I always say that it's better to own a space than just rent a space. So that's why we really thought it'd be good to create the website. So what Heather's taking you through right now is a bit of the homepage here where we have these modules for learning. So below the introduction to the campaign, you can click a button on a different scenario to then explore the different signs, indicators about dementia. The first ones here include, simple actions you can take. So the scenario, what a person would see, or what a dementia, someone with dementia would actually experience, and then also a tip about how you as someone who's involved or a potential caregiver can respond and help out. And what this does, it really provides opportunity for deeper learning that's in an engaging, interactive way. As much as we love to put text on a page and really inform people and make sure they're really coming with deep knowledge, this is actually light, digestible, and engaging, but still also quite informative. And this is a desktop version, but it's also done in a mobile version that's also quite interactive. And then we also thought it would be great to simplify the way someone can become a dementia friend. So if we'll just scroll down a little bit, we can see that the button for becoming a dementia friend is right at the top of the page as well as the bottom of the page. It's one click. As Heather mentioned, we want people to simplify the way people engage with the campaign, make it as native as possible. So there's two options here. You can either join as a partner or join as a friend, and then you just quickly put in your name, email address, answer a few other questions, and that you're a dementia friend. We also have some optional options if you call them, to add in some more information about who you are and how you heard about the campaign. But at its core, literally all we need from you is your name, email address, and just those kind of details. And then, so just in terms of analytics here, we redid the site in, I believe it was June, and since then we've noticed a lot of improvement when it comes to retention of our audience. We've seen a 10% increase in site duration, so that's the amount of time one spends on the site prior to the redesign and after. 12% drop in bounce rates. People are coming to the site, staying and engaging and hopefully learning more and becoming dementia friends. So the main takeaway here is that when you really focus on a hub for the site that actually, is engaging, digestible, mobile friendly, that, can really help people engage with the campaign in a simple way, you can increase your metrics. Then moving on to our next one here, our next key imperative is aligning your tactics with your target's online behavior. And this is a really big one for us. Obviously, as Heather mentioned, people are going to the internet to get information and get support when it comes to dementia. And our target is wide, obviously, when it comes to engaging Canadians on a whole about dementia, but we did narrow it down to a specific marketing target. So we want to talk a little bit about whose target is and what they're up to and what we know about them. So the first thing we did was develop a distinct strategic approach to the campaign in what we call a get-to-buy statement. So the get outlines who, obviously, the to outlines sort of the call to action, what we want them to do, and the buy outlines, how we'll frame our messaging in our campaign. So the get here is get women ages 30 to 50 who are paying attention to the health concerns of aging parents, like health, heart, dementia, cancer, etc., to join a community of dementia friends to learn a little bit about dementia by giving them the early confidence to better understand dementia so that they're prepared to do the best possible caregiver they can be for their aging loved ones. So the idea here is to provide utility for this audience by preparing them for what may happen to their loved ones. And when it comes to the who, and these are the 30 to 50 sort of primary caregivers, key holders of the family, we want to think about how we can combine what we know about them and really zero in on a distinct behavior. So we know we're going after the digital mom, as we call them, and this is the person who's using the internet on a daily basis to take better care of her family. She's following, health advice and brands on social that relate to, tips for caregiving, tips for recipes. She is finding doctors in her neighborhood using Google search. She's very active online when it comes to her role as a primary caregiver within her family. And then you also want to cross that audience with people who are concerned about the aging loved ones. So you get people who are, paying attention to little red flags that may come up when you're living close to someone who's aging. Is mom sort of asking the same question over and over again? She's getting to an age where she should be thinking about blood thinners. So really paying attention to the health of their loved ones. Then crossing that with the audience that's most active on social. And we know that this is, primarily women who spend time, checking social media 5 hours a day. They're very active. They're following pages. They're really commenting, liking, sharing, voicing their thoughts and opinions on issues, and following peer influencers. And that's really our bullseye, if you want to call it. And we know that, women are most active. If you take our Facebook pages and our Twitter page for an example, 78% of our Twitter followers are women, and 98% of our Facebook followers are also women. So we know that they're there, and we want to think about how we can engage them in an ongoing way. And what we know about them from a passion point of view, that they're active and they care about their family, they care about culture, and they care about health and wellness. So they're actively involved in their family's health and fitness. They're worried about the world around them. They're passionate about causes, and they really want to make sure that everyone is healthy and going to live as long as possible. All right, so based on these campaign objectives, we wanted to think about a multi-channel approach because, people don't spend time on one platform. They have a very integrated digital life. They're searching, they're social, and they really want to think about how we can think about touching all those digital points in a user's life. So we came up with a multi-channel approach that involved paid social on Twitter and Facebook, as well as organic social, search advertising, which is going to be on Google, online partnerships with a great partner that we like to engage with frequently called She Blogs, and then digital events that help kind of engage on a more kind of interactive basis. So the first thing here is making friendship a very social experience using social media. The role of social media here is to create online engagement that generates conversation around Dementia Friends. And we took a very distinct approach when it came to social. We have, initially started out with a bunch of platforms. We had Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but knowing our audience and being as strategic as possible, we wanted to narrow that down to just Facebook and Twitter. And what we've done here is create a different approach per platform. I think that's a very important thing to be thinking about when you have a multi-channel approach for social, because you want to find an opportunity to segment your audience for those platforms that's really native to what the platform is and how people will use it. So for Twitter, we want to, we want to be more informative and speak to people who are influenced and really showcase our credibility. And then for Facebook, we want to really try and think about how we can cultivate a community of caregivers that we're talking and supporting each other. But the overall strategy for the both platforms is to leverage, interest, demographic, and keyword targeting through paid to effectively engage relevant users with both a red flag messaging and prepared messaging. So what we did here, we came away with two distinct messaging buckets that kind of relate to those three sort of themes that we explored earlier. The first one is red flags. So kind of playing off those red flags that people may be noticing, is mom, showing up for dinner on Wednesday when it's normally Thursdays more often than she isn't? Are you prepared for your loved one? Those kind of red flags. And then we thought about kind of segmenting our next bucket is that prepared messaging. So helping, bring people into the fold by saying that you want to be prepared by becoming a dementia friend for what could happen or what might happen to your loved ones. So the idea of the red flag playing off of those signs and symptoms and those sort of, attention-getting moments, and prepare really positioning dementia friends as an opportunity for you to get support and learn so that you can be ready for what may happen. Those are the two overarching buckets. So when it came to execution, we were in market, obviously, in all of Canada in English and French. We had an always-on approach that basically meant that we were running ads every day all year, and we would have certain spike periods. So we have an always-on approach with a heavy-up period that kind of taps into, user behavior as well as, overall themes in the dementia conversation. For example, we were heavy up this month because it was World Alzheimer's Awareness Month. And then we have different ad types to help achieve our objectives. So we had our fan acquisition ads, which basically help us, advertise that we are here on social to a larger target to help attract them and to become our followers. And as Heather mentioned, it's helped us achieve our objective because people who are following us on social, either on Facebook or Twitter, are automatically included as dementia friends. So fan acquisition actually helps us, is essentially friend acquisition. We have engagement, basically helps generate conversation, and then we have lead gen, which basically also helps generate more people becoming friends through dementia. And then just some of the next page here, as Heather's showing you, is our Dementia Friends account. So we have a lot of content here, but some of the key things we want to think about when it comes to developing our content is that we want to create some consistency. But the idea is that we're going to be in market for a very long time, or market for, day to day, for years. We want to be able to create an offering that's engaging, distinctive, and varied, but also kind of branded. So we came up with a very distinct style that involves photography, that's natural, that involves people who are of various ages to help kind of dispel some of the myths about dementia, that's really natural, that looks like something that you'll be seeing in your newsfeed on a regular basis. And it's branded, so as you can see on the content, we do have that bottom left or bottom right-handed logo where it says #BecomeAFriend as well as with the forget-me-nots. And that's basically an adaptation of the overall logo that's more social friendly. And that's basically a marker on our imagery that lives just on social. And then when it comes to the content, we want to be able to be informative. So a lot of our content is based around, signs and symptoms and tips and action-oriented things you can do, to be a better dementia friend, as well as really adapting to the platform needs. So again, with Facebook, it's more kind of community-oriented. With Twitter, it's more influencer and more general population-oriented. But again, the whole overall idea here is to provide utility and information to both audiences. But we don't want to sound like a robot and just sound like a book that someone could read. We want to be friendly and personal and insightful, because what gets someone to stop scrolling on social is something that actually strikes a chord with them through a personal connection. So a lot of the content here talks about, is mom or dad or you. So it has personal language and taps into personal experiences that really help create opportunities for more engagement. And then again, all the content is very targeted. The next here is thinking about search. So as we mentioned earlier, people are online searching for information when it comes to dementia support, for signs, for tips, for information, for really just getting to know about what dementia is. And they're doing that through search. So it was a bit of a no-brainer really to think about, let's have some search ads that really tap into this behavior and showcase Dementia Friends the opportunity to learn more. So the role of search was basically to turn relevant internet searches into website traffic and Dementia Friends registration. So we created a series of search ads that really showcase the role of Dementia Friends while driving directly to the site. And we created 2 different ad groups, and we have what we would call as intention-based targeting. So using words that capture people who are looking for information on dementia, doing broad match as well as phrase match that actually captures people who are looking for words like dementia support group, Toronto, tips and signs dementia, cure dementia, prevention dementia. So all of those terms, and those weren't picked from thin air. Those were picked from looking at Google trend analysis and thinking about and really assessing the words people are using when it comes to looking for information about dementia. In consultation with, our research partner as well as Google Trends, we create a list, we call the list of terms that people are, in native language that people are using to look for words and information about dementia. So all of that language and searching leads you to these ads that you see here, and then those lead you to our website where you hopefully become a dementia friend. So search is a huge, huge traffic source when it comes to our website, and it's doing really, really well for us. We have Google ad placements. We have 4 to 5 ad groups with about 20 to 50 keywords each. And again, we have an always-on approach here. And I think when it comes to search, no matter what campaign you're running, you really want to be owning your terms and being in market as often as possible, because those micro moments when people are looking for information on Google are happening every day, and you want to be taking advantage of those. So ours are everything as simple as dementia signs, whereas yours could be related to larger searches as well as smaller searches. So our ads here, we have ones that relate to signs. So after being in market for, I'd say, a few months now, we know that the words and ads that relate mostly about signs and symptoms are the best ones. They'll drive the most traffic. And the good thing about search and being often and in market as often as we are is that you can really adapt your content as you go. So we actually refresh our keyword list on a weekly basis. We go through and look at words that aren't performing well and terms that aren't driving enough traffic and remove those and amp up spend on words that are actually doing really well. And then we use those insights when it comes to the creative to help create more ads like those. So it's really more of a testing and adapting model that's working quite well for us. We're currently testing a model that allows us to populate words that people are searching directly into the ad creative. It's called dynamic optimization. And what it does is actually help people recognize the creative easier because they see where they searched in the ad copy. So it's a bit more native. On to the power of influencers. So as we mentioned, our market target is going to be that women target, and they really trust the word of peers. They look for information when it comes to health of their families on and offline from peers. And peers could be, relatives, co-workers, and then online could include influencers. And we really want to tap into that network of online influencers to tell richer stories about dementia and convert our potential caregivers who are women. The strategy here is to partner with a premium influencer network. They're called She Blogs, to create awareness and drive traffic. And what they offer us is an opportunity to partner with influencers who have content that relates to our topic and really kind of drive their stories and drive more opportunity for engagement through dementia stories. So we've created a series of blogs that live on these blogger sites that are promoted through the She Blogs network that tell, their opinion. There's a great blog about someone talking about caring for their grandmother. Then they kind of infuse a little bit of learning in there as well. So it's, story, learning, and the great thing about it is when you do a paid influencer program, so you can really be clear about your call to action. When you're doing, more of a PR approach or an earned media approach to influencer relations, you can't really control the messaging. But when you're doing a paid approach, the influencer is very accountable to you and your campaign, so you can actually really call what you want them to say. So what we've done here is we have, our call to action of become a friend, we drive them to our site, and they actually have some great engagement. On the next page here, just some creative examples of what we've done. And the She-Blogs Network they are a site, and they have a network of sister sites that they display content on. So we have, banners and a custom hub where people can share content, become a friend. It's called the Dementia Friends Wall. So once you sign on to the wall and share your story, you're automatically a Dementia Friend. So we have the banners that live on the She-Blogs network, as well as the custom hub and the wall where people can engage. And then we also have the blogs themselves. So it's those kind of threefold approach of engagement and really kind of touching stories and that personal element that helps kind of drive the campaign forward. And then I think this is almost our last one here is online events. So as you can imagine, online events are becoming more and more popular, different formats. There's live video, Periscope, Facebook Live, and then also Twitter chat. So what we decided to do was we want to use the influencer in a way that was, not just to have the opportunity to tell a story in a very almost unidirectional way through their platform, but almost use them to help amplify our platform. So we partnered with really renowned Globe and Mail health reporter Andre Picard to help us host a Twitter chat about dementia. And this was done actually just last week, and it was very successful. What we've done here is we want to educate Canadians about dementia using a credibility of an expertise of a notable expert with an active and engaged following. So Andre has a huge following, almost 60,000 Twitter followers, and he's incredibly smart and incredibly respected. And we want to use him to partner with us to create some more engagement there. So we secured him and had an English Twitter chat and a French Twitter chat. The way it worked is that people were encouraged to ask the questions in advance, as well as during the hour-long period, and Andre retweeted them and answered their questions. Prior to the event, we did do some promotion, including some paid Twitter ads as well as paid social ads. We did an e-blast to everybody who's registered on our site, as well as partnered with some of our friends at the ASC to help disseminate content when it comes to promoting our Twitter chat. And then just some of the metrics here. We actually are very impressed that the day of the Twitter chat, we got 28,800 impressions. We answered 20 questions on the English side and about 10 to 15 on the French side. So a total of 35 questions there. Andre has 53,000 followers on Twitter, and a lot of them were exposed to our content while he was answering questions and participating in our Twitter chat. And then we had 191 engagements just during that time. That includes people who was retweeting content, liking content, making comments. It was really quite an engaged community. And the great thing that we loved watching was that people would, Andre was, of course, the one responsible for answering questions, but all the participants would chime in, really give their opinions and their responses to some of the questions people were asking. So it really did kind of highlight that we are creating a dementia community online. And then during the day, we had lots of retweets and engagement. So it was overall quite successful. And what you're seeing here is some of the content, some of the tweets that led up to it in advance. When it comes to we had a distinctive hashtag for the Twitter chat. It was called Dementia Talks. And that hashtag got used 151 times during that day. So we're very excited about that metric. And some of the tweets that are rolling through right now are just some of the promotion, and then we'll go through and see a few of the actual answers and questions. All right, so then on to our next one here is creating distinctive benchmarks. So the great thing about digital is that it is an opportunity to really understand what you're doing. When it comes to a few other campaign approaches, PR, it's hard to get those distinctive metrics. So with digital, you can measure everything. You can get results instantly, and you can really monitor success. And the great thing about monitoring is that you can be responsive. we're in market all day, every day, for months on end, and we can actually become smarter as we go. But the priority is to develop distinctive metrics or evaluation framework prior to launch. So you want to look at, what your overall objectives are, and then what you're going to be doing when you're going to have in market, and then how to measure those objectives with the metrics that are available to you for each tactic. So what you can see here is our evaluation framework. For our primary objective of friend acquisition, we want to do a Twitter, for our Twitter campaign, our Twitter approach, we are measuring new followers for our campaign. And then we also looked at, for our secondary objective of engagement, we were measuring impressions and engagement rate. For Facebook, again, it is new fans would be lauding up the objective of friend acquisition, and then again also impressions and engagement rate. For She-Blog, the evaluation framework for metric for friend acquisition was new social friends, and then also it drove to the site. So we also counted social friends acquired through the Dementia Friends wall as a success, as well as people who were driven to the site through the blogs, and that was also a friend acquisition metric. And then for secondary for engagement is impressions and our click-through rate of people who would arrive at our site from the blogs. And then for search, since they drove exclusively just to the website, it was website registrations were our metric for friend acquisition, and again, impressions and CTR for engagement. All right, and then I guess for the last one, two more success factors here. We're just going to hand it over to Heather again to discuss amplifying our reach with relevant partners.
Great, thank you. So looking at some of the other Dementia Friends campaigns across the globe really indicated to us that, they were able to increase awareness by engaging entire communities and corporations. So we needed to think beyond our primary marketing target audience and find ways to connect with other segments of the population, including, Canadian corporations, professional associations, and communities. And what we did is we went through an exercise to identify people, where, it made sense, and where health and wellness, for corporations where employee health and wellness would be something that's a top priority for them, and some different associations as well as communities, and identified people and places that we felt would like to be involved. And then what we did is we developed an interactive PDF. And this toolkit contains social media posts, it contains web banners, there's an e-blast, it has tip sheets on communicating with people who are living with dementia, it also has Dementia 101, as well as contact information. So the great thing about these is that we could send these interactive PDFs to interested partners and organizations, and they're able to download the posts and use the content as they see fit. So it has our messaging in it, but they can also tailor it to things that work for them. So if there were just certain things that they wanted to use, they could tailor it to their own needs. And it was, if you're able to do something like this where it's making it easy for people to participate and fit it into things that they're already doing, it sort of reduces those barriers to participation. We also identified some community partners, and we really wanted to engage with community leaders to show support at the community level. And as Stephanie mentioned earlier, last week it was World Alzheimer's Day, and what we did is we developed some custom social media posts and reached out to mayors across the country and invited them to show their support for World Alzheimer's Day and share some learning with their followers about dementia. So we created a post to acknowledge the day, but to also share a little bit of information so that people who were exposed to it had higher awareness. So really finding easy ways for people to participate, whether it be through a toolkit or through social media posts, allows to really spread the engagement and increase participation. So we're about to wrap up, and through our final tip is really on evaluating and monitoring behavior change. So, in order to truly understand if we're moving the needle on the issue, we needed to invest in research, and as we spoke about at the beginning, we conducted some baseline research, and we'll conduct that research again after the campaign, so next year, just to make sure and understand that we have, a sense of the difference that this campaign has made and continues to make. So we have 3 key objectives that we evaluated, and these go back to our campaign objectives. And for awareness, this is, has there been an increase in awareness and understanding of dementia? Have we influenced attitudes and perceptions about people living with dementia? Have we increased feelings of dignity, respect, and support amongst those living with dementia? And have we engaged Canadians to join a community of dementia friends? So these, by doing these measurements, we can really see where the campaign has excelled. If there's areas that aren't growing as much as we would like, then we can see really where we need to focus our efforts moving forward to make a big impact and get as much engagement as possible and as much awareness for the issue as we would like. So on that note, we're just going to recap the things that we spoke about for the digital campaign that we developed for Dementia Friends Canada. And, we said prioritizing your bullseye target to maximize relevance and engagement, focus your message, be single-minded with your call to action, create a storefront for deeper learning, align tactics with target's online behavior, establish benchmarks, and optimize throughout, amplify your reach with relevant partners, and then evaluate and monitor behavior change. So on that note, we're happy to answer some questions, and we do also encourage everyone to become a friend. So that can be done on Facebook, Twitter, or on the website.
Thanks, Heather and Stephanie. I see some really good questions. So let's start with the first one. What would you say are the lessons from Dementia Friends that could be scaled to local programs with a smaller budget? So I'm just going to say something quickly, and then I'll turn it over to Heather and Stephanie. But with that, I would say we definitely, in terms of what, let's say the UK has, we definitely are operating with a smaller budget here. And the fact that we have taken the digital approach is what has allowed us to have the successes that we have so far. In July, I was attending a conference, an International Alzheimer's Conference, and met with the woman who launched Dementia Friends in Nigeria. And similarly, her conversation with me was that they have no budget. And she, I believe, when we spoke, was over 70,000 friends already. So you can do a lot with a little. And I'll turn it over to Heather and Stephanie to maybe go into a bit more detail there.
Sure. So I think the biggest thing to think about when you have a small campaign and a small budget is not trying to boil the ocean. You don't have $1 million and you can't reach everybody. So I think the most important thing is that you want to be really targeted about your audience. You want to really hone in on that bullseye, who gets you, the most conversions, the most engagement, and the most bang for your buck, really. So if you know that, women who are, working every day and commuting to work are your target, then you can really think about how your tactics play into that, and you can be really smart with your tactics and not have to have that many. So if you know that you want to be reaching women who are commuting, then you go, okay, we're going to have, a podcast because they know they listen to podcasts, and that's it. I think that's kind of one thing I would think about when you do a smaller approach.
And I think that the great thing with social, and I'll let Stephanie chime in here as well, is when you have a good sense of your target, there are a lot of filters that you can put into your social advertising in terms of making sure that you are reaching the people that you want to reach. So there's different kinds of targeting that you can undertake. Maybe, Steph, you can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So for what we did, as I mentioned earlier, we did demographic targeting, which basically meant we were targeting mostly women ages 30 to 50 on social. We did behavioral, which meant people who were searching certain terms or talking about certain terms. We did interest, so people who are interested in following certain pages, who are actively volunteering, who are involved in groups related to dementia. We can do by generation, so we did like the sandwich generation because they have older children and also older parents. So what we can do through social, especially when you're doing a paid approach to social, is you can really use the platforms to really hone in. A lot of them are very smart and insightful about it.
And I would say the other thing is you want to be very mindful of the platforms that you do choose to use. So, originally in year one, we had either 3 or 4 platforms, and then we said, to have the most impact and to increase engagement, let's pick the 2 platforms that are most important to our target and focus on those so that we can be active on them on a regular basis and, doing proper community management and follow-up. So I think that, really what Steph said is, thinking about your target, thinking about, the social platforms that make most sense to the target, and as well as what you and your team can handle, and then really focusing any paid promotion, taking advantages of those sort of filters and targeting mechanisms that the social platforms do have to make the most of your budget.
Thanks, ladies. We have a question and a compliment from Kyle Brown. Thanks, Kyle, for that. One of the interesting things just to point out about the watermark being on the social media post, that's one of the things that changed when we started the refresh this year was we created that consistent branding that is seen on everything. So as things are becoming more viral and getting shared across the platforms, there's a very recognizable brand now for Dementia Friends Canada. So that's one of the improvements that we have happening. So your question was, what limitations did you face in the Twitter chat? For example, in one screenshot, it looked like Andre had to break up his answer over multiple tweets. Do you think that impacts engagement and user friendliness? So I'll turn that over to Stephanie and Heather.
So I just, offhand, I think one of the things that one of our learnings was, not everybody has a Twitter account, and so we certainly had some feedback on our Facebook account that said, I don't have a Twitter account, so how can I access the Twitter chat? So we did what we could in terms of community management, in terms of taking their questions on Facebook, asking them, and then posting them back to Facebook. So I would say one of the limitations was, not capturing that audience who isn't on the social platform. I think, you mentioned that Andre had to break up his answer over multiple tweets. I don't think this was a limitation because he was a very experienced, he's very experienced in doing that. I think having somebody who is very familiar with the Twitter platform and is used to writing responses in 140 characters is definitely an asset, because I think for people who were not as experienced or as digital savvy as he was, that would certainly be a challenge. Steph, do you have anything to add to that?
I think just to kind of speak to the question about the multiple responses, I think it was almost not a limitation, but a good of an added bonus, because it gave Andre a chance to really explain his answer. Some of the questions were a bit tricky and probably could not be answered in just 140 characters. And we didn't want to, drive people off-site or lead them to our website or the ASC website. We want to create that engagement within the platform within that hour-long period. So, doing the 1 of 2 and the 2 of 2 responses, I think was a great approach, and it gave the person a chance to really chime in and create almost a bit of a dialogue, as opposed to just, here's your answer, on to the next question.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, I think just to really speak to the importance of having someone who is familiar with that channel. When you have something that is taking such a place over a short period of time, we answered a large number of questions over a very broad subject in 60 minutes and in 140 characters at a time. It was very impressive just seeing how fast Andre was able to answer each question as they came in. So it really spoke to finding the right person to take part in each initiative. So our next question is from Iman. Is the interactive PDF toolkit available for us to access? So it is definitely available to everyone. You just need to contact us at contact Manifest at info@dementiafriends.ca, and we can work with any organization to help bring Dementia Friends and the information that we have to all of the individuals there. Bill, do we have any other questions coming in?
I don't see any more coming in on the chat. We do have a few other questions here. Lindsay, did you already ask our presenters what does success look like for this program?
I did not. So I can answer just from an overarching perspective as the funder of the program. What our goal in this is to create a online community of engaged individuals whereby we have the opportunity to spread awareness and reduce the stigma for dementia. I know in a number of documents and speeches over the last year or so we've talked about creating a kinder, more understanding society, and that is ultimately the goal. From the pure digital perspective, we have set a numerical target, but that's not one that we measure against. As you would have seen when Heather was speaking about our evaluation, we're measuring against changes in behaviors, changes in levels of awareness, and changes in attitudes. We measured at the beginning of the program. We did a survey in the launch of the second year, and we'll do that same survey again at the end of our second year and be able to track what those changes have been.
Yeah, so just to add to Lindsay, certainly, we're looking to that research report and to see if we've really moved the needle over the year, or more than year, but the year that starting in year 2 and until we do it again. And I think, from our perspective, we do have specific digital benchmarks that we're just trying to exceed, and to just see that we continue month to month have increase in friends and followers, and making sure that our social posts are engaging and being shared, and that we're often, as Steph said earlier, looking at the analytics for our website to make sure that we're just on a positive trajectory moving upwards in terms of engagement and learning.
Thanks, Heather. So we have a question from Pam. How is the Alzheimer's Society and its many branches through the country involved in friend acquisition? Yes, definitely not if. The Alzheimer's Society of Canada, as well as all the branches across the country, they're the experts on this topic, so they are a partner in the program and heavily involved in every aspect. So at the national level, we work closely with the Alzheimer's Society as partners on the program, and then throughout the country, each individual chapter has its own ways that they're reaching out and helping to acquire more friends for the program to grow the community of support that we're establishing. Another one come in. Did the idea of having chat rooms or any type of communication method on your website so that dementia caregivers can connect with each other? That's a good question. I will turn that one over to Heather and Stephanie.
Yeah, actually, we did talk about that quite a bit. That's really funny that you asked that. We thought a bit about, we want to create a community that's online that's engaged, and we thought perhaps we could do that on our website. But then we really thought, if we're doing the website chat room and people are talking on there, and we have social, we have Facebook and Twitter, and people are talking on there, we'd almost create a bit of a redundancy between the two of them. So we had to create a bit of the party where people are already having the party, as opposed to dragging them to another place to have the party. So we created opportunities for engagement on Facebook. And that is not just, posting content, but posting content with open-ended questions, with opportunities for people to fill in the blank, with opportunities for people to talk about their feelings and their thoughts in the comments. And then we made one of our mainstays to respond to people on Facebook, to kind of ask them more questions, to kind of spur the conversation forward. And you'd be surprised what happens. We're not always the ones chiming in. It's sometimes other followers, other fans who are giving advice and sharing stories. And there's some really beautiful and evocative stories that happen in the comment section of our Facebook content. And I didn't want to distract from that by asking people to do it on our website.
It's Bill. A question that came up for me with regards to engaging folks through all the channels that you were using and the methods that you were using. Did you notice any differences in engaging people in across Canada, located in different areas of the country, or from different sort of subgroup populations? And did you have any surprises or unforeseen challenges?
Well, I think just to kind of chime in a bit, what we noticed the biggest difference was in language. Obviously, Canada has two official languages, and the French Canadian community really does talk about dementia very differently and have a different approach to dementia. So it was almost adapting, the way we, even down the words we use to describe dementia and the words we use to describe the campaign, the hashtag we use, to having to adapt that for the French Canadian community, and thinking about to include sensitivities to that when it comes to creating content, and also hosting events. We want, for something as simple as a Twitter chat, we wanted to make sure we did it in English and French, or to be a separate French influencer. But we're very lucky that Andre, of course, he spoke both languages. But also for the She Blog influencers, we had different content created for both English and French, and the French bloggers told a bit of a different story with a different approach. So just being mindful of the way people, not just areas of the country, but languages spoken and viewpoints on the issue that you had to be adapted to.
Thanks, that's really helpful. So another question from Claire Marie is, does the diffusion of research results, will the diffusion of research results be one of your actions? And will you plan some interactions with researchers?
So the study was really conducted to serve as a baseline for Dementia Friends Canada to measure and compare sort of levels of awareness and attitudes towards dementia over time. And as we mentioned, we will be repeating it again post-campaign in order to evaluate the growth and awareness and the understanding from our baseline results. We won't be doing an official dissemination of the research, but what we are doing is we're using some of the interesting statistics and facts that we have learned, and we're applying it to our campaign going forward. So people will see some of the results show up in our social media posts, and so we'll be sharing pieces of content that way.
Great. Thanks, Pam, for sharing that chat site from Alberta. That's great. So, Lindsay, did you notice any questions that I've missed here, that we've missed? There's another one from Ron just coming in.
But I just see one coming in. Thanks, Ron.
So Ron asks, has a dementia carer for 10 years now. Thank you for being creative and taking a strong approach online and in social media here in Canada. I'm cheering Dementia Friends on, and I would have a very low-tech way of favoriting. I'll favorite that comment, Ron. Thanks. So we have a little bit more time for questions, but if there are none, we can also start wrapping up and end a little bit early. So final time for questions. Get your questions in if you have any last burning questions. But at this point, I guess I'd like to really thank our presenters from the Public Health Agency and Manifest Communications. This has been really fascinating. I think it's relevant to a lot of different audiences beyond I think there's a lot of people here that are working on this issue of dementia and Alzheimer's, but I think there's a lot of relevance even more broadly within the health promotion community and people who are engaging caregivers and people who want to engage different audiences. So this has been, I found really fascinating. I hope our audience have enjoyed and have learned a lot. Of course, I can't forget to thank everyone in the audience. I know people are starting to drop off now, but I want to thank you again for your interest and all your great questions and comments. And we're really pleased that you could join us and hope to have you on our future events as well. So keep an eye out for future events. We're going to continue our webinar series with the Public Health Agency, so hopefully we can revisit this topic again. And now I'll turn it back to our presenters in case you have any final thoughts you want to leave with our audience.
Great, thank you. Well, we just wanted to say thank you here from Manifest for giving us the opportunity to share with you some of the digital approaches that we used for our campaign, and please don't hesitate to reach out if people would like copies of the interactive PDF. We can certainly get those to you by emailing info@dementiafriends.ca. And I think, if you'd like to stay up to date, we'd love it if you would become a friend.
Great. Thanks very much, Heather and Stephanie and Lindsay. And I think that's it for today. So we'll wrap up early and give people a few extra minutes in their day.